This happened a few years ago when we were living in the same flat with our mother. My mother, the dog lover, she began gathering stray dogs from the streets, and she ended up with 13 in total. I remember, to avoid sex and fights and things like that, she had to separate the males from the females, and she put the males in the living room and the females in the bathroom. Two dogs began fighting each other. Well, it wasn't only two, it was two at the start when we only had 3 or 4 dogs. When later on, when we had 10, the number of fights increased. So, well, you have dogs and you have fights. How do you resolve that problem? What's the solution? Well, you put them into separate rooms. The females in the living room and the males in the bathroom, and you keep the door in between shut. You can't imagine it. You had to be there, okay? Every time I wanted to go from the bathroom to the living room, I had to go through this door really fast, just so no dog would sneak out. And then I had to shut the door tight so that no dog would stick its snout through the gap. But the problem involved in all of this is that when 2 dogs start fighting, with only one door to separate them, they can still smell each other underneath the door. So that when you, for instance, are trying to commute from one room into the next through that door space, you have to be very sure that you are not struggling to get through without one of those dogs smuggling themselves underneath your legs. That could lead to mayhem. In the unlikely event of dog encounter, the battle began immediately, and we not only had to hold back the 2 dogs that were fighting, we also had to calm down the rest that were attacking each other uncontrollably. In some cases, right, we had to throw water on them just to calm them down inside our own house, right? Well, this worked for a while, but it got to the point where even members of the same sex started fighting, and we had to separate them into 3 rooms. I mean, it ended up at the point where we had to keep most doors of our flat shut. So now, we're arriving at the decompression chambers. At last you'll be able to hear what you've been waiting for. You create a neutral space, a 3rd space, situated in between the 2 separated spaces, and say that you wanted to pass from one separated space into the next. You simply use the 3rd space and open the door as civilized people do. Perhaps a dog from the 1st space enters with you. No problem. You just wait patiently for the dog to return to its own space, and you shut the door behind it. You're keeping this space neutral for your transitions. Every time I wanted to go for a pee, it was torture. I was stressed even by the thought of it. Oh, how I wish I lived in a house that was free of canine obstacles. You know, I wasn't asking for much, was I? So, to go to the bathroom, you have to start with opening the door, stepping out into the corridor, shutting it immediately, and all the while having to listen to dogs barking and whining, and then to get into the bathroom you have to open it very carefully, because watching out for any escape attempts. If just one dog gets out, it's like opening a can of worms. I mean, because how do you put a dog back into a room where another 5 are trying to get out at you? Listen to this last bit, and then you will know everything you need to know. Imagine you're an astronaut floating in space. You can't just enter the spaceship from outside. You need a neutral space in which to pass through. Same goes for dogs. You can't just go through the door. So you need a decompression chamber. You need a room in which the external conditions can transition into the internal conditions. So you simply walk through a door, much as in a spaceship. Shut the door behind you, get out of your spacesuit, allow oxygen to enter, allow the pressure to change, etc. And then you open the door to enter inside the spaceship. Absolutely comparable to the conditions in that flat. Otherwise, it will be impossible to transit. When I get inside the corridor, it's finally some peace, a relief, stillness, until the thought of opening the next door strikes me.
But I don't understand. Where is this decompression chamber situated? Is it part of the inside or the outside?
I think I've made it quite obvious from what I've already stated that the room is situated towards the outside but still within the limits of the spaceship. It is neither outside nor inside, in the periphery or the centre. This is its function. It is neither out nor in at the same time.